This video will focus on true horror stories that happened in libraries, but before we get into the stories, don't forget to like the video. It was a typical day in the college library, and students were busy studying for their exams. One of the students, a senior named James, was researching a term paper on a dark and mysterious topic. He had heard rumors about a secret book hidden in the library, which contained forbidden knowledge that could drive a person insane. James had always been curious about the darker side of life, and he couldn't resist the temptation to find the book. He searched through the stacks, looking for any clues about its location. After hours of searching, he stumbled upon a hidden room behind a bookcase. The room was dark and dusty, and it smelled of old books and decay. James saw a faint light emanating from the other end of the room, and he followed it. As he got closer, he saw a glowing book on a pedestal in the center of the room. He approached the book, feeling a sense of unease. He opened it, and the words on the page seemed to come alive. They were written in a language he had never seen before, and they pulsed with a strange energy. James couldn't resist the urge to read them out loud. As he read the words, the room started to shake, and the book glowed brighter and brighter. James felt a coldness creeping up his spine, and he realized with horror that he had made a grave mistake. The book contained a spell that summoned a powerful demon, and now it was loose in the library. James tried to run, but the demon was too fast. It chased him through the stacks, knocking over books and shelves in its wake. James knew he had to find a way to stop the demon before it destroyed everything in its path. He remembered a legend he had heard about a secret chamber in the library, where powerful artifacts were stored. He ran towards the chamber, hoping to find something that could help him. As he reached the door, he saw the demon approaching, its eyes blazing with fury. James opened the door and found a glowing sword on a pedestal. He grabbed it, feeling its power coursing through his veins. He turned around to face the demon, and he knew that this was his only chance. The demon charged at him, but James was ready. He swung the sword with all his might, and it connected with the demon's chest. The demon howled in pain, and it dissipated into a cloud of smoke. James collapsed on the floor, exhausted and relieved. He knew that he had narrowly escaped death, and that he had learned a valuable lesson. He left the library, vowing never to return again. The legend of the demon and the secret book became a cautionary tale for generations of students to come. It was a typical day in the college library. It was a cold and stormy night, and a group of students had gathered in the college library to study for their exams. Among them was a young woman named Annabelle, who was known for her love of the macabre and her fascination with the works of Edgar Allan Poe. As the night wore on, the library grew empty, and Annabelle found herself alone in a dark corner of the stacks. She was searching for a rare edition of Poe's The Raven, which she had heard was hidden somewhere in the library. As she searched, she heard the fluttering of wings and the sound of tapping on the windowpane. She looked up and saw a raven perched on the windowsill, staring at her with its beady eyes. She felt a shiver run down her spine, but she couldn't resist the temptation to follow the raven. She followed it through the stacks, deeper and deeper into the maze of books. The raven led her to a hidden chamber, where she found the book she had been searching for. She opened it, and the words on the page seemed to come alive. As she read, she felt a strange sensation, as if she was being transported to another world. She heard voices whispering her name, and she saw the shadows of figures moving in the darkness. She tried to leave, but the book was holding her captive. Suddenly, the door to the chamber slammed shut, and Annabelle was trapped. She heard a faint tapping sound, and she realized with horror that it was coming from inside the chamber. She looked up and saw the raven perched on a shelf, staring at her with its soulless eyes. Annabelle tried to scream, but her voice was caught in her throat. She felt a cold wind blowing. And she saw a figure emerging from the shadows. It was a man, dressed in a black coat, and he was carrying a silver tray with a decanter of red liquid and a goblet. He poured the liquid into the goblet and offered it to Annabelle. She tried to refuse, but he insisted. She took a sip. And she felt a burning sensation in her throat. The man smiled, revealing a set of sharp teeth, and Annabelle realized with horror that he was not human. She tried to run, but the man grabbed her, and she felt his cold hands around her neck. She struggled, but he was too strong. The raven cawed, and Annabelle felt a sharp pain in her chest. She looked down, and she saw the raven pecking at her heart. Annabelle collapsed on the floor, her life draining away. The man and the raven disappeared, leaving behind only the book and the goblet. The next day, the library staff found Annabelle's lifeless body, clutching the book and the goblet. The legend of Annabelle and the raven became a cautionary tale for generations of students to come. The library was never the same after that night. And some say that the ghost of Annabelle still haunts the stacks, searching for the man in the black coat and the raven with the soulless eyes. It was a dark and stormy night, and the college library was almost empty. The only people left were a few students who were cramming for their final exams. One of the students, a freshman named Emily, was feeling particularly nervous about her upcoming psychology exam. She decided to take a break and explore the library to clear her head. As she wandered through the stacks, she noticed a strange book tucked away on a dusty shelf. It had no title and the cover was black and worn. Curiosity getting the best of her, Emily pulled the book off the shelf and opened it to the first page. The words on the page were written in an ancient language that she couldn't understand. Suddenly, she heard a faint whisper in her ear. Emily spun around, but there was no one there. She shrugged it off and continued to read. As she turned the pages, the whispers grew louder and more insistent. Emily started to feel uneasy, but she couldn't put the book down. It was as if something was holding her captive. The whispers turned into a low chanting. And Emily realized that the other students had left the library. She was alone. She tried to leave, but the book seemed to be glued to her hands. The chanting grew louder, and Emily felt an icy breath on her neck. She turned around, and to her horror, she saw a figure in a dark robe standing behind her. The figure beckoned to her, and Emily was powerless to resist. She followed the figure deeper into the library, where she saw other robed figures gathered around a glowing pentagram. They were chanting in unison. And Emily realized that she had stumbled upon a secret cult meeting. The cultists turned to Emily, and she knew that she was in grave danger. She tried to run, but the cultists caught her and tied her up to a chair. They surrounded her, and Emily felt a sharp pain in her chest. She looked down and saw that they had carved a strange symbol into her skin. Emily never spoke of what happened that night in the college library. Some say that she went insane, haunted by the whispers and the memory of the cultists. Others say that she disappeared without a trace, taken by the cultists as a sacrifice to their dark gods. The only thing that was certain was that no one ever dared to venture into the college library again after dark. It was a quiet night in the college library, and the only sound was the scratching of pens on paper. A group of students was studying for their exams, and they were determined to make the most of their time. As the night wore on, the students started to feel a sense of unease. They heard strange whispers and saw shadows moving in the corners of their vision. They tried to ignore it, thinking it was just their imagination, but the feeling persisted. One of the students, a young woman named Sarah, decided to take a break and explore the stacks. She wanted to clear her head and get away from the oppressive atmosphere of the study room. As she walked through the stacks, she heard a faint humming sound, and she felt a chill run down her spine. She followed the sound, and it led her to a hidden corner of the library, where she found a strange book lying on a table. The book was bound in black leather, and it had no title or author. Sarah opened it, and she felt a surge of energy coursing through her. The words on the page were written in a language she had never seen before, and they pulsed with a strange power. As she read, she felt a presence behind her, and she turned around. She saw a figure standing in the shadows, watching her. It was a woman, dressed in a flowing white gown, with long black hair and pale skin. Sarah tried to run, but the woman was too fast. She felt a coldness creeping up her spine, and she realized with horror that the woman was not human. She was a ghost, and she was hungry for Sarah's soul. The ghost whispered in Sarah's ear, promising her power and knowledge beyond her wildest dreams. Sarah was tempted, but she knew that the price of such knowledge was too high. She tried to resist, but the ghost was too powerful. The ghost reached out to touch Sarah, and she felt a surge of energy flowing from her body. She collapsed on the floor, and the ghost disappeared, leaving behind only the book and a sense of emptiness. The next day, the library staff found Sarah's lifeless body, clutching the book in her hands. The legend of the ghost and the mysterious book became a cautionary tale for generations of students to come. The library was never the same after that night, and some say that the ghost still haunts the stacks, searching for her next victim.